Boxing Forum. We back at it again with all of you boxing fans around the world. Thank you for tuning in, guys. Um, Look, man, I want to give a mad shout out to everyone that's supporting the channel. Can keep supporting us. Before we get started, hit the bell icon, hit the like and subscribe button. Support the movement. We got some more boxing news for y'all, and this one's a trip. So, it's been recently announced in the U.S. Teofimo Lopez has or is refusing to fight, or his team is refusing to fight George Kambosos Jr. The fight is scheduled for October 17, and his. Let me just give you some context here. Okay, so the fight was between George Kambosos and Teofimo Lopez was postponed, as you know, because Teofimo Lopez caught the Rona. He caught the virus, COVID-19, just like another top-ranked fighter, Tyson Fury. So it's not a good look right now for top rank because a lot of star fighters are catching the Rona. Them boys better start taking cover and start taking care of themselves. I don't know what's going on over there in top rank. Anyway, there was a big dispute about the fight, George Kambosos and Teofimo Lopez. And Teofimo Lopez's team were and on about different things. They wanted to get paid more money. There was a dispute whether the fight should happen in Australia. And if it does happen in Australia, Teofimo Lopez wanted X amounts, millions. Let's get it right. In a sport of boxing, any sport, when you stage a sport, especially boxing, as a promoter, you look at the financials. So if you have two guys fighting for a particular fight, whether it's a title or not, the promoter or the business people look at it and say, okay, how much money can we make off this fight as a businessman if we put this fight on? Meaning, once we pay fighter A X, once we pay fighter B X, how much of that pot is good business for us? Simple. I mean, there's nothing wrong in that. Any businessman will always look to make a pretty penny. And no boxing promoter on the planet, if he's worth his grain of salt, is going to stage a boxing event and lose money. Nobody, even the ones that love the sport of boxing, which I can probably say all the promoters pretty much love the sport of boxing. So when you hear this dispute about money, sometimes it comes from the fighters and sometimes it comes from the promoters, or both. But it has to make good business sense, especially if it's a title fight. And as we know, Teofimo Lopez is a champion. After he beat Lomachenko, the Ukrainian star, he's been on a serious wave. He hasn't fought since then, but he's been on a serious wave. And there's also been talk about Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez having a rematch. I think that may be pending whether or not Lopez holds on to the belts. That's what we're going to get into. Because the topic we're talking about is Lopez is even talking about, or his team is talking about, if the fight is pushed to Australia, they'll vacate the belt because they don't want to fight in Australia. And apparently for love nor money. So let's read about what the is coming from the U.S. Triller, which is an app in the U.S., which covers a lot of sports, and now it's just getting their hands deep in boxing, attempted once again to move the date of the Lopez and George Kambosos Jr. fight, and now they intend on changing the location. So Mike Coppinger, who is a big-time reporter, reports at ESPN that Triller, as I said, that the fight was moved to purse bids. So just so you understand, when a fight is moved to purse bids, even the promoter has to then bid for the fight. And then therefore, when it goes to purse bid, meaning the main promoter, and if it goes to purse bids, whoever wins with the biggest purse, that's who can stage the fight. So Triller, which is an app, just like DAZN is a sports app, bid some whopping $6 million to stage the fight, which is a lot of money for these two caliber type of fighters. And so anyway, I read on by saying that Triller wants to push the Lopez-Kambosos fight back to October 17 and move the fight to Australia. Lopez's team are not on board with the idea, and manager David McWater of Team Lopez says, if necessary, they would vacate the IBF lightweight title, which Kambosos is the mandatory challenger for, and move on with something else. Wow. So this is, I had to give you some context because this is interesting because you remember Kambosos sold a rack of death. Lopez sold a rack of death about he's the best fighter in the division on the planet. He could move up to 140 and dominate, blah, 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 blah. And I even was one of the guys that said, look, I think he'll do pretty well at 140 because he's a big super lightweight. So I think Lopez would do good at 140. I think he's built for 140. He could definitely bang, but he sold a bunch of death. Oh, I want Tank, but they don't want it. I'll take David Haney, but they don't want it. Any one of them at 135, but they don't want it. He gave all this. And now he's talking about vacating the belt. So when a fighter wants to vacate a belt because he doesn't want to fight wherever, to me, that raises question marks. Because when you are a world champion, and in this case, unless you're like Anthony Joshua, who as a big star can afford to do most of your fights in the UK and pull it off. Or if you're Deontay Wilder, you can fight most of your fights, not all your fights in the US and pull it off. Or if you're Floyd Mayweather, he probably fought, I don't think Mayweather fought a professional fight outside the United States, especially when he became the ubiquitous Floyd Mayweather. He fought all of his fights in Vegas, pretty much. The last 10 fights, I think, was in Vegas. And he pulled it off. But unless you're like that, or you're on that caliber, you're on that level, then you fight anywhere because you're a world champion. That's why you have the title, world champion. And that means you fight anywhere in the world. And I think these dudes be smelling their own applesauce. They think they can just, I ain't doing it. You fight here in Philly, or you fight where I'm from in Texas, or wherever they from. And if you ain't fighting there, I ain't fighting. I ain't going to England. I ain't going to Australia. I'm a world champ. You come to America. And I'm like, nah, bruh. You know, because when a fight goes to purse bids, that means whoever holds the rights to hold that fight can simply tell you the fight's going to be in Nicaragua. Go fight in Nicaragua. We got a soccer stadium. We got to fight in, whatever. So them not wanting to fight or take the fight against Kambosos Jr., I don't doubt that they fear. I'm not saying that Lopez fears Kambosos. I think Lopez will take care of Kambosos. But I'm just not liking this whole idea of just because the fight's in Australia. And remember, in Australia, unless there are some massive health concerns. Now, we know that, to give you more context, they freak the hell out in Australia when they have 10 cases of COVID. They lock everything down. So it's not a country where there are a lot of cases of coronavirus. And especially Lopez, who's been tested or has contracted coronavirus. If anything, they should be afraid of him coming there. So if they're willing to take the fight on and take all the necessary health precautions, then bruh, you're probably going to one of the safest countries there is in terms of how they deal with the Rona. So I'm not sure what these guys are on about, but it's just interesting. For Kambosos, it might be a win-win for him because whether or not the fight goes ahead with Teofimo Lopez, they could be in line to win the IBF title or be given the IBF title, especially if they vacate the fight or vacate the belt. But is it a punk move by the Lopez team? I don't know. I just don't think it's a smart move. I think they should think about it unless there's something that meets the eye as to why they are not willing to take the fight. I don't think the Lopez draw card is as big as his team is making it. They making it out that they got stars following, like we got J-Lo. J-Lo follows us. Just because her last name is Lopez don't mean you got J-Lo in your corner. In fact, I was just checking J-Lo's page the other day, man. And, of course, J-Lo is fine. But I don't think there's anything on her. I don't remember seeing anything on her Instagram or anything about Teofimo Lopez. It's not like someone like Sean Porter, who will say, when I fight, I bring stars to my fights. Like he brings LeBron. He brings other actors. Because that's true. That happens. And so Sean Porter's a draw card. So if Sean Porter said that, you believe it because he's proven that he's a good ticket seller. And it's not like Teofimo Lopez is an amazing ticket seller. I mean, he does good numbers, but it's not like you're falling out your chair because he's killing it at the box office. So I don't get it. I mean, if you talk about people at box office draw in his weight class, Tank Davis. Devin Haney probably does better numbers. Ryan Garcia doesn't do bad numbers either at the box office. Ryan Garcia probably does better numbers on Instagram, but still, I'm not hating. So the reality is, I'm not sure what this is. Sometimes with boxers, you have to understand, don't be fooled Boxers are really, really good, especially when they're champions, are blowing their own trumpet because they have to create the hype for themselves if nobody else is. And but then again, the proof is in the pudding. So tell me what you think about this. I think it's a strange move by Team Lopez. And unless I'm missing something or something ain't smacked me in the face from the news that I'm reading here on the internet and the sources coming from the United States and ESPN, maybe they need to reveal a little bit more that I don't know about. But as far as what I've been reading, I don't know what Team Lopez is talking about. Hey, give me your comments. Tell me what you think. Holler back at us because that's all I got for y'all. You know, until another one, you know, Boxstar Forum, we're going to keep doing it. Peace out.